Parliament
Debbie.
of Papas.
There you go. I dig it. We were
You
doing
know,
Aaron and I
you
were
know what
sorry.
this means, right? Don't you?
No.
Yes, I absolutely know what this means. That's whatever. But Aaron and I were doing these fun little TikTok quizzes last night. Somebody on there is like, here's only, and what P letter is a group of owls? Like Parliament, fool. Parliament Funkadelic. Anyway, all right. All right. So I actually had to ask Joe about this. Kurt, he will explain in the reading of it and everything. But Joe, you brought a Reddit here to us for the Parliament.
I sure did. So this comes to us from a subreddit called "Am I Overreacting?" And the redditor is no_weekend7196. Am I overreacting? I won't hire someone with a 1488 tattoo. And when I first looked at this, I was like, I have no idea what a 1488 tattoo is.
So before you tell us what it is, make sure everybody go on your work computers and look that up, especially at a religious job.
So apparently, 1488 has ties to neo-Nazi. We'll start off with that, and now I'll read what they actually put in here. So they said, I'm building a house, and I live in a very rural part of the South. I am trying to hire contractors to do some work, and one of the workers with the company has a 1488 tattoo on his neck. I don't want to hire racists. I'm canceling my contract with the company. So one worker has the tattoo, and he is not going to be hiring the company at all. So do we feel that he's overreacting because of that refusal to hire the company? Assuming that that's the only problem with the company.
Right. So, and again, I know nothing about this number thing, honestly, but it's that part of it's kind of irrelevant. If that implies that that guy is a racist, I think the overreaction might be canceling the contract with the company. However, I would give the company the opportunity, because this dude, that contractor that works with the company, or one of the workers with the company that he subbed to, right? So I might call the company and just say, hey, you know what? We really like all of the guys that you sent over, but there's one guy, I can't work with him. And see what the company does.
Compromised.
And just say, look, I can't in good faith work with this guy. Can you send me somebody else? And if the company says no, you have to work with them, then that's not overreacting. Then it's like, nope, sorry, then I'm canceling the contract.
Okay, that sounds like a reasonable approach.
Yeah, I mean, because then it becomes. I've been trying to find win-win scenarios rather than a win-lose scenario, and that would be a win-win. You communicate with the company, you say, hey, this tattoo, you can even call it out because the company might not know, but whatever, I can't work with this guy. And if the company says too bad, then too bad, you're out.
Yeah. Well, and John brings up a good point that I had thought of as well. How does he know that this guy is truly so, meaning truly a racist, I assume, and not just a bad life choice?
Right. Yeah, that's the other part of that, right?
Because it's very possible that he fell in with a bad crowd. Getting laser removal for a tattoo is expensive, and perhaps he has amended his ways. I mean,
you know what's not expensive? A turtleneck, a scarf.
I mean,
an explanation when you come up and say, hey, I understand you might know what this is, but I need to address it because of da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, and it's possible that his boss has no idea what
but it's his boss's responsibility
means.
To
know.
know.
It is, but it's possible that the boss is ignorant as well. Like, none of us knew what the tattoo meant before I Googled it and explained it.
I'll tell you, in my business, when I hired people, I Googled every tattoo, or I asked them straight out about them. And that, you know,
Mm.
and I'm gonna tell you this: neck tattoos or face tattoos, bad idea in life, period, and in business. But in this case, whoever the person who wrote the Reddit, you know what it is. The only inch I would give to the company, because I actually do disagree with both John and Kurt on this, is like, we live in a world where you got to ask questions of people and you've got to know exactly what's going on. And he has something that is blatantly racist. Now, yes, I didn't know what it was. If you showed up at my house, I wouldn't know the difference. I'd let him work. But this person did. If I called a company and go, this is what that tattoo is, I not only don't want him working here, I'm sorry, if you don't fire him, I'm not going to work with your company, because I'm not going to work with a company who now knowingly enables any kind of racism. If he made a bad life choice, yeah, but you've got to address that. There's a comedian out there who's just a pasty white guy, but he's got tattoos it's massive all over his face. And he was telling a joke about how people ask him, oh, did you always want to be a comedian? He's like, no, I wanted to be an accountant, but this kind of stopped that. Kind of idea. Yeah, but he talks. His shtick is talking about the bad choices that he made, but that's it. Choices have consequences, and Steven says he could be repentant of that tattoo, but you have to address it. You do.
Sure,
if it's there on your neck that everybody's going to see it, it's like gang signs, like anything. You have to hide it. You have to, in the fire departments.
And that was actually, I was going to have a follow-up question. Would the script change at all if it was a gang sign instead of a neo-Nazi sign? I mean, there are some arguably similarities, but very different between a gang sign and a neo-Nazi sign.
Yeah, I mean, I would say simplify. If their apparent tattoos go against the core values of your company, then you have to have the conversation. Whether it's with the guy or with the company that you're hiring, or both, it doesn't really matter. But you have to have that conversation.
I don't like the word "have." I don't think you have to have that conversation.
Well, if you want to be,
I'm done.
Yeah, I think that, with all due respect, I think that's short-sighted and removes humanity from the equation. And the time that when we start doing that, then we just close off the communication lines even more.
So when you say so let's say I'm the one who knew about it and it offended me directly. So you're telling me I have to get over my stuff to communicate because I'm taking away his humanity by not. Aren't you taking away my humanity by saying I can't make my own choices and not want to deal with it?
So you are making your decision without complete information.
I fully disagree with that. I saw the tattoo. That's all I need. That's all
but that's what I'm saying.
Why do I owe him anything? Why do I owe the company anything?
You owe your
business transaction.
You owe yourself. You owe yourself. It's not if you are willingly operating or willfully operating from an area of ignorance, and I really don't mean that to be pejorative. You don't have complete information. I mean, it can be that this guy completely regrets that, or it could be that the company that you hired doesn't even know. And whether you do or not, if the rest of the company and the rest of the workers for that company do good work and they're not racist, then what are we doing? Right. I just think that
we're taking the presentation that the company decides that. You're telling me you've never gone to a restaurant and the first time you're there, it was just bad service, bad food. Maybe you complained, or you just left and never went back.
It really depends on the level, but I would complain to the manager if it was truly poor service, or have that reflected in my tip. Because I'm definitely not at minimum you tip 20%. That's not me.
It's not me either.
Yeah,
and if you do really bad service, I'm not giving you a tip.
Right. No,
I am going to talk to you directly. I'm going to try to address it, but this is a little bit different. I just and that you just put that up about Stephen, about people in isolation go to Steve. We're going way too off track with it. It's not about isolation. It is about, in a world that we live in, you get to interact with the people you want to interact with. I will tell you, there's certain things, I won't drag it out here, but there's certain things that if I see it on a person, and it's white people and it's not neo-Nazi racism, but if I see it, it tells me enough about you to know that I don't need to work with you. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to worry about you. I can be polite, but I don't need to worry about you. And it can be all kind of a slew of things. It is about how you present yourself. And then when it is a company thing, if your company, well, there's just so much into it. But in this case, where what if it was big, the F word slur, right? What if it's that across the net where everybody knows what that is? Does that change it? Does that make it different? What if they had a bad, choice in life?
So potentially, yeah. So potentially it does, because it also depends. Like, I'll give you for example, right? For our company, we're constantly going in and talking with clients and working directly with clients. So we have to present ourselves in a professional manner. We had an employee who had a fair amount of piercings on their face. And we said, cool, look, here's the deal. And granted, this is different a bit, but we said, here's the deal. We don't care that you have the piercings, but you can't be wearing them when you're on site.
And then it's their choice to take them out or to not work there. Yeah.
Now it is a little different because we're talking about racism, which you can't temporarily remove.
And there's plenty of people who made bad racist choices, then the tattoos are somewhere that's covered up.
Right. But here's where I think we may split a little bit. If I had the discussion with the employee with that tattoo,
sure,
and I was convinced that they were repentant, contrite, and really just couldn't afford to get rid of that tattoo, I would have to say to them, then if you're going to be working for me, you're going to need to cover that up. And that's if I believed them. And I don't know that that's true. I don't know anything, but I'm just saying, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt until I communicate with them enough to know whether or not I should.
Yeah, and I mean, bare minimum, they could get like athletes when they put the little black underneath their eyes, they could get that and cover up the tattoo temporarily while they're there.
All kind of stuff.
Because I think it was John was like, in when it's hot in the South, you're not going to have them put a turtleneck on for construction work.
Let me tell you something. The fire department in the mid 2000s that I was working with.
Oh, I've seen their calendars. They don't wear turtlenecks.
Joe has a subscription to the calendars. That tells us a lot about Joe. But military people get tattoos quite often, right? And for a while, the policy was it didn't matter. But then the county decided to change the policy to no visible tattoos. And they would not hire you if you had visible tattoos. Now, I think there was a tiny, tiny handful of people who just couldn't cover up the neck, and they had some issues. But everybody else, now it wasn't like a turtleneck, hot, but they had to have some kind of long sleeve on at all times, summer in Georgia or not, or they couldn't work there. It was their choice. They were being grandfathered in. They were still going to keep their pension. They were still going to work, but that was the caveat. And they make those sports ones for baseball players and whatnot, and they can wear them. But the thing is, personal responsibility. We're back to the dad advice. My daughter has always wanted eyebrow rings and nose rings. I'm like, one, that's dumb for two reasons. Society still is not there, and it doesn't, and certain people can look good, but just because you can't do it doesn't mean you should do it. But that's neither here nor there. Because when it's off-putting, it's off-putting, no matter what. Two, medically speaking, those are the 2 out of the 3 most infected ring places that you can get. Tongue being the most infected ring place you can get. Because of all the germs. But I taught her choices matter. And yes, you can take them out. I told him about tattoos. Be careful with what tattoos you pick and where you put them because you might regret it later, but choices matter. And I am not here to change everybody's life and try to save everybody. I've spent too much of my life trying to do that. So in this case, I firmly land on homie shows up with that, and I know what it is. You got to go, man. And your company is going to get a phone call, and they may never work with me again.
I think my ultimate judgment on this is he is not overreacting to not to want to do business with them, but it also wouldn't be unreasonable to have a conversation like Kurt suggested with the company to make
my only nitpick was the word have to. I don't like that.
No,
you just don't like being told what to do.
I don't. And I also don't owe them jack bleep either. But it's not unreasonable to have a conversation, but it's also not unreasonable to not want to do business. It's where I'm sorry.
No, I agree.
Kurt's throwing up his arm off screen. You can't see it. Don't worry about it. No, he's not. I'll redact that all day long. Redacted. All right. There's some jokes you can make and some jokes you just can't. So
do we have a consensus then that he's not overreacting?
Joe and Kurt right, Charles is wrong. It's John.
Like the cut of your jib there, John.
I don't know, Joe. We can't get to a consensus because none of us have gavels except for Kurt. This Supreme Court is not so supreme. Unlike Taco Bell, who has a Supreme burrito on for $1.50 just now. Go after midnight.
So I don't know how much Charles is getting paid by Taco Bell, but I'd like a cut of that cheese.
You want some of that TB money, don't you?
I think he's just hungry.
He's got the munchies.
Not yet.